Another Job, Part 10, Out Lurking the Lurkers. We should better concentrate our firepower, boys, and shoot a volley at those lurkers first. Then take those of them that survive in melee, again together with Master Rem. Methinks they be trouble if we do anything else. That too sounded well, and came from the mouth of a hood veteran shooter. That case, if anything unexpected happened, or their mysterious enemies had more magical items, could at least protect their behinds. Indeed, Rem spent a couple of sleepless nights thinking about marriage and kids. Though, for that to happen, one had to protect their family jewels, so to speak. It was far better to stand together with those veterans who, despite being expert marksmen, were very competent warriors too. Good, then it's decided. We are facing those mysterious 6 forest fishies tomorrow, boys. Now, who has something to drink? Said Rem, and pulled one travel ration from his backpack. Didn't take long before they were calmly chatting, everyone dining on whatever food it was that their wives, sisters, or girlfriends had packed for the trip. Rem took a few blissful sips from the mead Val had filled his canteen with, and then checked with what Felk was doing. In Karat, many undead could visit their tavern of choice, enjoy spirit food or drink, and that was considered normal. Once, long ago, when it was Rem didn't know, undead had no access to luxuries like these. Indeed, those who were dead need not consume food or drink, but, well, it was better to have something that brought you some joy. The stuff they consumed was created via magic, of course, and blessed in Kan's temple. Therefore, those who consumed it could restore some of their mana. As a Kanite, he was told by learned sages and priests of his faith that someone felt really bad for the unfortunate souls who came back. Dreary their existence was, they spent every moment of their undeath chasing whatever it was Kan Almighty sent them back into the world of the living to do. Without fun, you can see the frown even on a skeleton's face. Always, said one of Rem's teachers. Now, Felk didn't pack luxurious stuff. He couldn't even if he wanted to. Rem's backpack was loaded with items, supplies essential for the sort of mission, and it would be ludicrous to sacrifice space for a bottle of spirit booze, for example. His lich friend was now floating near the entrance of their hideout, whispering. Rem was not that into magic, but his occupation as a solver of problems meant he had to learn the olden orc tongue. Magic incantations in Karat were either spoken in the dead high orc language or ancient elven. In school, Rem picked orc, since the sage who offered a course in it also promised to teach the spoken language which all orcs used today. Taking another sip from his canteen, he listened closely. Felk was weaving an alarm spell around himself. That magic was something all alchemists and those who worked with magical items learned early in their life. The Lich had probably studied under someone really knowledgeable because Rem understood only a few of the words. That spell was ancient and powerful. Felk's whispers gently melted into nothingness, and his skull slowly rotated, one glowing eye dimming for a second. Rem chuckled. The Lich had just winked at him. Relaxed, he fixed his bedroll, and a couple of minutes after everyone ate their food, the solver problem was fast asleep. He and the rifleman spent their entire morning looking for a suitable ambush location, and after they found the place, waited for another hour. Finally, the dangerous quarry lurked its way into the range of their rifles. Barely visible, the cloaked shadows they saw only because they had a magical map. Obvious it was that someone had wasted no money and other precious magical resources to protect these 6 agents from detection. The hoods used unregistered in any of the magical guild's maps. They were outlaws, vigilantes, not some goody two-shoes upright citizens. Yet, with the help of their map, they could only see the 6 when those moved, cloaked outlines sticking out from all the greenery. To the riflemen, it was beyond clear that these were specialists, maybe even solvers of problems, yet Master Rem's reputation they knew well. Whatever he started, the men always finished it. Slowly, they leveled their rifles, fingers on the trigger, and aimed carefully, trying to lock the ever-moving shadows with their eyes. Rem stood a little bit ahead of them, stake in his hand and shrouded by invisibility. 2 could play the game, and his shooting hand carefully pulled 3 arrows from the silenced quiver. 1 he notched, yet did not draw the bowstring, while the 2 others were still between his fingers. The 6 shadows were moving closer and closer. 60 paces. 50. 40. And then they, seemingly unaware of the hood's presence, lunged forward. The loud bang of 5 arcane muskets echoed across the woods. An arching wall of violet flames and gases propelled the shooter's projectiles forward. Rem's iron muscles pulled the bowstring halfway and witnessed how all the bullets hit. With a loud and deafening clang, 2 of the 6 enemies fell dead on the grassy earth, large holes bored through their chests. The rest, however, were uninjured, since some form of magical defense had activated by itself, shrouding their bodies and deflecting the perfectly aimed bullets. It was the same magical shield which only few professionals could procure due to its high cost, and protect themselves against fast or slow flying projectiles. Far better gear this was compared to his cheap shield ring. However, great that items these agents used, it had one fatal flaw. Once chosen and activated, the item of projectiles which it offered protection against could not be switched. Under the steel mask, Rem's eyes squinted. He straightened his back and pulled the bowstring fully. The 4 agents, no longer cloaked, darted forward with speed only achieved after many turns of arduous training or high-quality magic footwear. Armed with vicious-looking curved swords such that even Rem had never seen before, they moved at 20 paces, and then each threw 1 ring-shaped weapon at his rifleman. One of them, the old veteran, managed to somehow duck, and the swirling carrier of death flew only a few fingers above his head. The rest were not that lucky, and although these throwing rings did not kill them, everyone was wounded. Either their legs or their arms, had these weapons slashed the hoods, were now bleeding. The enemy who ran straight towards Rem instantly noticed the arrow which appeared out of nothingness, and with amazing reaction rolled down on the grass. Seconds before it halved those 20 paces before him and Rem, the arrow suddenly curved its trajectory, and one of the very unsuspecting enemies found his chest impaled. Instead of moving forward, a loud snap was heard as the magic-infused arrow punched his enemy backwards, both its kinetic force and the body moving with speed clashing. Rem knew what had happened. The man's back was broken. His eyes widened a second after he loaded the 2 arrows and again pulled the bowstring. Not only were these enemies using speed-enhancing magic, but also strength boosters. The 3 of them were now at 10 paces, and Rem quickly changed how he held the bow. Still on his knee, his hand moved stake to a horizontal position, and from point-blank range, 2 arrows flew at the enemy. Both used their swords in an attempt to cut or parry the projectiles mid-flight, which they had assumed were aimed at their chests. Instead, one of them fell on the ground with a broken leg, Rem's arrow sticking from his thigh. The second one was luckier, and his foot moved for just half a second before the arrow impaled his calf. He got a bleeding wound which impaired his movements. By now, any other team made of professional problem solvers would long pulled back and retreat to safety. Not these 3. Even the guy whose broken foot had all but taken him out of the fight still crawled forward, one hand trying to pull something from behind his back. With sight trained and polished in many a fight, the solver of problems scouted what was the person about to pull. An arcane pistol. The 2 shadowy enemies had already clashed with the rifleman, and Rem quickly pulled Sparrow from his sheath, flinging it just in time to nail the pistol-armed lurker. Unable to move quickly and on the ground, this person should have been easy to hit. In yet another remarkable feat of dexterity, the enemy twisted in such a way that instead of his throat, Sparrow impaled his shoulder. By now, 2 of his riflemen were heavily wounded and on the ground. Rem dashed at one of the lurkers, sap in his hand, and attempted to feint. Instead of the obvious slash, he changed the course of his swing and hit the enemy's plate-gloved hand. While he did this, for only a second, Rem saw that all hoods, even the veteran, were out of the fight, wounded and probably bleeding to death. So the enemy had swords infused with bleeding magic. Gear like this cost tens of thousands. Just as he was about to hit the first enemy, the second one moved behind him, sword pulled back and ready to stab him. Rem's shoulder twitched, yet he was committed to an attack. Swooshing through the air, Sap smashed the enemy's raised plate glove, unleashing its magic. Instead of deflecting an obvious cut, the sight of Sap's blade crushed, mangled the enemy's glove, and then Rem got stabbed in the back. Brelt's plated chain twisted, almost snapping under the immense pressure and strength of the blow, yet it did not let the enemy's sword pierce his back. Twisting and sidestepping, Rem's own blade sliced through the throat of his first opponent, and while his chest armor almost buckled, soaking yet another vicious blow, he called Swallow back. In but a second, the trusty dagger flew at her master, aiming to reach his free hand, and yet there was someone's body in her path. The reaction which these agents possessed was unnaturally quick, and his enemy twisted, rolled, and turned, curved sword almost parrying Swallow. That he thought himself safe or able to evade the adversary behind him was but a fleeting hope, because instantly got backstabbed by Rem. More like back-bludgeoned. Without even a gasp, the lurker fell dead to the ground, his back shattered under the armor.
Beware, the last one is trying to blow everything and us with him. Stop the bastard before he drinks this potion.
Screamed a timely warning Filk, who was pretty much useless in a fight such as this. Eyes always watching, when he was around, the knowledgeable alchemist instantly recognized the suicide potion. Dashing forward, Rem managed to slice the man's fingers in the nick of time and screamed at his lich friend. Don't float like a freeloader, Felk. By can, do something. Use stun magic on the bastard or whatever spell you have prepared in that blue glowing noggin of yours.
Yes, I can hold him. Now when he's heavily wounded. Quickly, man, you must not waste your chance to interrogate this murderous bastard.
Bluish mana flew out of Felk's eyes and enveloped the last of their enemies, still alive, locking his wounded limbs into place. Rem opened his medical box and pulled 3 healing potions. There was no way he'd leave his allies to bleed to death. The old elf had already swallowed a potion, and Rem tossed one his way. Despite his speedy intervention, the youngest hood died. His wounds too deep for a simple healing potion to close. Angered, Rem recalled Swallow, and with it in his hand, knelt next to the would-be assassin, hissing in his face. Now you will tell me who sent you here and why. I will tell you nothing, gnarled the lurker, choking on his blood.
Get back,
screamed Felk, and something which the agent carried on his person popped, releasing magical energy. Rem managed to roll away from the now very dead lurker thanks to his friend's warning, looked at the mangled, steaming body. Can's grace! What a gory mess this is. And we can't learn anything because I doubt anyone sporting such high-quality gear and skill would carry the missive of their master on their persons.
You know, they need not carry anything, Rem. I am still a lich, and can do things even without the rest of my bones. Now pick up his head and hold it.
The lich floated closer, and while Rem grabbed the bloodied head, holding it with apparent disgust, his friend's mana glowed all around it, entering through the eyes, mouth, and ears. The bluish mana soon filled his gory trophy, and everyone could hear the powerful charge with magic, words coming out of Felk's mouth.
Oh, spirit, you who are about to be judged by Great Khan, tell me who you work for.
Suddenly, the head's eyes opened, projecting ghostly shapes who soon turned into a vision. A shady room and one magically shrouded form sitting before a group of 12 identically looking lurkers. Since the bloodied mouth moved and spoke with another person's voice, replicating what its ears heard and mind remembered.
I want Cecil to go after him. Make sure he never leaves the forest and secure your ship for me. Do not go back after. Do you hear me? I want the second group to go to his majesty's alive spoil. Even if she traces by use of deadly force, the elf is designed to be hard. Otherwise, she'll be of no use to me. Die if you must, but bring her here, so that I can do what needs to be done. Go now.
The head stopped moving and Felk's mana vanished. Rem dropped the now quickly rotting thing and asked his companions who had just finished rummaging through the lurker's belongings. Did you find anything on them? Notes, maps, rings, perhaps? Nah, just like you said, Master Rem. They be professionals. Only gear we took on what items they had, answered the old elf, throwing one sad glance at the young hood whose body they had covered with a cloak and placed on a stretcher. Sad here kid had to go so soon. He sighed and shouldered the young man's rifle before asking the question. What now, Master Rem? Should we go and take care of the useless, or... Indeed, Rem was aghast with worry of his maid. What if she was under attack right now, fighting against those mysterious agents? Who by Vortex was this person that ordered these so well-equipped professionals to go after him, and why was he after Val? If Felk wasn't here, Rem wouldn't have learned anything from just searching the bodies, and without the hoods backing him up, he'd be dead, most probably. He could run across the forest, attack the useless, and together with his hood riflemen, make quick work of them. Recover that alchemically locked chest for his employer, and get the 1,000 gold coin reward. Better yet, examine its contents for himself before relinquishing something which a person hired multiple professional assassins to recover. He had Felk to help him unlock the thing after all. Rem had faith in his manor's defenses. They had never failed him. Yet. However, the dead man's head spoke of another group of 6 lurkers, whose were about to assault his manor. Indeed, it was protected by all sorts of defenses, and Val was armed, but if their equipment allowed them to walk past magical wards, and they were skilled enough to disarm the traps, no, he had to act quickly. The chest be damned. Rem would move with his best speed, hoods in tow, and try to reach his manor in time. There was another option. He could send the hoods to take care of that band of useless. They would be able to easily deal with this common rabble, shoot most of them from afar, then chase the rest and kill them one by one. Rem would run back home with his best speed. Hopefully he and Felk were strong enough and able to defeat the 6 lurkers without help. Since the hoods were still alive and with him, Rem could ask their boss for another favor. Although that would cost him more, he'd be able to go after the useless himself, backed up by rifles, just like he intended to do initially. Meanwhile, his head allies would be able to quickly reach the manor since their village was nearby. Brotham had a fast carriage, and his girls were always close by. From what he's heard of them, all 3 were capable sorceresses, whom the hoods had saved in the past and then hired to work for them. For sure, Rem would have to part with a lot of gold to compensate them for their services, but the reward for returning the Countess's chest was abnormally large. That way, he'd hit 2 targets with 1 arrow, get to learn what was inside the chest if he decided to open it, and ensure Val's safety. Well, thank you for listening to this particular tale. I know it's been a little bit since I've, told another job story, but here I am doing it again, and, I am dedicated to see this through to the bitter end. I hope you've been entertained by this. I surely am. Every single time a new one comes up, it's always a treat. Now, of course, this is written by Eric Bart, also known as the Black Knight. So go ahead, check out the links below, and support him by going to his Patreon or buying his books of the Star Shatter series. I hear number 5 just got done. It's a good time to start reading if you haven't. Me, I got some catching up to do. However, support him any way that you can, and myself by hitting that like and subscribing. And no, don't forget to share. And, of course, burn. So I'll end it with this. Thank you for visiting and listening. Have a wonderful night. God bless and farewell.